A man chooses, a slave obeys.
Welcome to the Ethics in Video Games podcast, where we explore issues at the intersection of ethics and video games.
What follows is a series of graphic, interactive scenes that we can't show you.
All right, everybody, we're here with Camille Guillemot. Camille started her career fighting fraud by making gaming a safer space for gamers, but she quickly realized that fraud was only one part of the puzzle and decided to engage herself more on topics that matter to her and joined Bodyguard as its gaming partnership manager, where she's now dedicating her energy to making gaming a safer and better place for all players, developers, and content creators. Camille, welcome to the show. Yeah!
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much. Really happy to be here.
All right. So I told you before we started today, Camille, you're from a company called Bodyguard, and you're the first person we've actually had from a company, and we hope to do more. But we've generally tried to stay away from that. But we think what you're doing is so interesting, and the way that you yourself are thinking about it is so interesting. We really wanted to have this conversation with you. So let me jump right into it. Let's say my studio has a game out, and I've been told by some people that our players' ability to communicate with each other really freely has led to a toxic environment, right? How can a company like yours help me deal with the toxicity that occurs in my game?
So in the world of online gaming, toxicity, it includes a lot of different things, actually. So sexual harassment, hate speech, threats of violence, doxing. Also, it can also be, grooming, spamming, flaming. It's a lot of different things. And what we do at Bodyguard is that we go get actors from the gaming industry, so publishers, developers, esports players, streamers, and we try to build with them environments that are safer and inclusive, using moderation. So today we know that gaming is more about connecting with each other, about communities, interactions, and sometimes it leads to very toxic environment where people are insulting each other, or being violent to each other verbally, and all that kind of situation that you guys are probably aware of. And what we do is that we try to build a moderation that fits the spirit of their games, that fits the environment and the type of connection they want to make with their community, to create a safe and inclusive environment for them and for their players.
So you said we're trying to build a moderation. All right. So explain what does that mean in your context?
So in the context is that today we have developed a technology that is doing a moderation work. So it's a technology that is capable of finding, analyzing, and moderating content in real time. So this is the technology that we developed. But the thing is, today with gaming, you're not going to moderate an FPS shooter the same way you are going to moderate a Monopoly Plus or a Just Dance game. It's two different worlds, two different player base. So what I mean by building a moderation with them is that we use the technology that we have, we use our expertise, our knowledge on moderation, and we try to find the best way to use that technology for them to build a safe environment. So the technology is very very easy to modulate and to customize. It's rule-based. So, it's really easy to tailor to someone's need. And what we do is we use our technology that is already high performing to make sure that it's it fits the spirit of their game and what type of moderation they want for their games.
Right. So I think it's important to step back a little bit and say most moderation is done by humans. People are actually just on monitoring what's going on in the chat or listening in on what's happening, and then applying their their own sense of what is right and wrong, and doing what they, and having tools that they can to either mute people or ban people or do all those sorts of things, right? So what you're talking about is actually an AI. It replaces the human moderator with somebody who is with a computer which can do things faster and more efficiently,
and maybe more rule based.
Yes.
Which is interesting because, in part of our previous conversations on this topic, we always try to get to principles, all right? And when you have a bunch of individuals, people operate a lot of time really on a case-by-case basis. It's, but if you have an AI moderating conversation as it happens, which is, to me, pretty incredible.
It's super impressive.
Yeah, right. When that happens, right, you need those kinds of principles, and we want to talk to you partly about that. But before we get into any of that, want to know about the problem of toxicity itself. Right now, I mean, companies hire moderators, so human moderators that your AI may replace, right? And they're there to do something, right? And their job is very hard to do. Why is it so hard to control toxicity in game that's both moral and satisfying to players?
For so many reasons, actually, because first, when the games were designed, it was designed, to connect people, but it was not designed taking into account toxicity and moderation. It was just about leaving like a chat box open for everyone so everyone can connect. It was not, taking into consideration, okay, but what if someone, loses and they're a sore loser, like, all of these considerations were not taken into consideration, actually. So today it's just like, about creating gaming experience, like to unify everyone. And usually these problems are very like much aside. So we tend to see like big changes in that, but today it's still happening. There is also, as you said, a lack of scalability. Because these are humans behind the moderation, it's very difficult to moderate everyone. Like,
right.
Can you imagine?
Right.
Imagine how many games of League of Legends are played per hour? It's like massive. You cannot have like humans behind all of the games, like trying to moderate. So there is like this problem of scalability because we are so many players in the world. So this is something that is missing. There is also the question of centralization. In big publishers hierarchy, what is happening also is that you have studios that handle their project on their own, like very separately, and there is like no coherence when it comes to community guideline, player-based guidelines. We see today creation of teams like diversity and inclusion, player safety teams, but they are very recent. Like I think maybe 5 years ago, none of them existed before. Like none of them like were trying to think about those problematics, But it's starting to change. But there is this difficulty of scalability. There is the freedom also that being behind the screen offers. There is like, this kind of, I'm kind of hidden, protected by my screen, and I will allow myself to, to say stuff that I wouldn't dare say to someone's face.
That's
in
right.
the street. So
and especially if
there is
we're anonymized by, like, we have, handles, game handles instead of using our real names. And so we're anonymized in that way. There's no repercussions.
Exactly. So that's, like all of those like factors that contributed to the fact that today toxicity is very difficult to tackle. There is like a lot of catch up that needs to be done also on the publishers and developers side, because they are still, trying to figure out how to do that. Like some of them just don't want like multiplayer features in their game. So, they are like, okay, I don't want to deal with that kind of topics, so I'm just gonna not put multiplayer features. So it's really difficult today to control all of this and these because of all those factors.
We had an episode about toxicity, and our guest essentially called it a wicked problem. Right. You remember, a wicked problem in the sense of it's one of the really, really, really tough problems out in the world. it's a challenge that seems so incredibly tough to get right. But here you're coming in with an AI, right? And we're very curious to see, well, okay, I mean, what are the kind of relative advantages or disadvantages of trying to resolve this with an AI as opposed to human monitors? I think you've already come up with one, which is just a scalability issue.
All right.
Yeah.
Huge advantage.
Yeah.
Yes. So the beauty of Bodyguard, and I'm going to preach a bit for my own church.
Go for it.
But,
Go for it. Yeah.
but the beauty with Bodyguard and like what Charles, the person who created the technology, he's been like really thinking about it. He wanted to take the best of both worlds, like what Hannah Montana say. It's about taking the AI, the scalability, being able to do in real time, being able to moderate massive numbers today, fast. It's also about protecting mental health, of those teams that do moderation work. Because I've seen a documentary of people doing moderation for Facebook, Meta, and it's absolutely
it's a horror show.
Like they are like seeing violent images, violent text every day, like. Even for us sometimes, like when I need to go see the data that we have been like analyzing, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff, it's really hard, when I spend like an hour maybe just reading comments and I see horrible stuff. So I cannot imagine what those people like must like experience every day, 8 hours a day doing this. So it's really like also about preserving humans' eyes, humans' mental health from that. And also there is this idea that we are also fighting AI, especially in the case of fraud, because usually you have bots, like frauding, like creating new ways of phishing people and all of that. So having an AI fighting another AI is also really interesting for us.
Wow, I never remotely thought about that.
Yeah, and now I'm fascinated from a sort of a William Gibson sort of point of view. Like, with these out there, that these AIs are fighting each other. One to protect our mental health, and the other to, I don't know, sell us stuff. Probably, mostly.
Exactly. So that's exactly what we've been working on with one of the editors that we've been working with, is that they had a massive issue with bots, creating gray markets, trying to pull out the players out of the official ecosystem, so they can buy in-game currency elsewhere. So they had like massive issue with that because first they were spamming, they were also ruining the economy of the game. So we had to think about, okay, how can we, counter that using our technology. So it was about learning how they were behaving, what were the patterns, and then creating something that will counter that. So yes, it's exactly that. It's just creating AI against AI. But as I said, there is also the human side that we cannot ignore. You cannot moderate humans just by using the machines. It's something that needs to be fueled by humans, because at the end, moderating and toxicity, it's something very subjective. It can be something really subjective. So you need to make sure that you have humans understanding what's going on. So with the humans, so as I said, it's it's based rules, and those rules are created by our linguists. And what they do is that they, try to find what are the new trends of toxicity, because with their human brains and their human emotions, they can understand the subtlety and in toxic sentence. Sometimes you have very toxic content that doesn't contain any swear words, not even a little fuck. Sorry.
You're allowed to use explicit
Am I allowed?
language. Yes,
okay.
yes.
I know, because when you are in a moderation business, you just start to get really.
You moderate yourself a lot.
You're numb. Yeah, yes. Exactly. But with our linguists, they're able to understand the subtlety in certain toxic content. So they're able to train the AI and say to the AI, okay, so this is toxic. And I think it's quite beautiful, because it's, in sci-fi, it's the whole deal. Like when do we consider an AI as intelligent as a human, because they don't understand emotions. But what we're trying to teach them as well is emotions. Like what would a human feel if they read that sentence and that's that's the human part of the technology that we do cherish, because we do feel it's really important to keep a human side to the moderation that we perform.
Yeah, because there's a lot of nuance between using the F word to call some as in some sort of slur or something like that, and just going, oh fuck, when I've lost a game.
Exactly. So context is something that if we really work on, it's really important with Bodyguard, and that's why I'm emphasizing it. We are a contextual moderation solution. We don't work on keywords, because as you mentioned, like fuck in a sentence can mean like so many things. You need to understand the full context. Right. So we work on the context, and another example of that is like something really specific for gaming. Like very recently we had like a lot of misogyny. I mean, I'm not saying it's recent, it has always been there, but we are being more vocal about it. And it's like go make me a sandwich that a lot of people are using against female streamer to say you have no space in here. So in essence, go make me a sandwich, an AI wouldn't understand that, but us as human, because we have all the context and everything, we do understand that this shouldn't be said to a streamer live. So is this and the beauty with the rule base that we can actually say to the AI, okay, so go make me a sandwich in this context should be moderated.
Mm-hmm. So just to be clear, as I'm trying to wrap my head around this, originally I thought this, so you have an AI, and the AI also does learning as AI is learning, I'm assuming, from the context, or is it just getting so an AI can look at a space and essentially get feedback from the space and develop kind of its own algorithm based on that feedback, or the AI can be fed with rules from the very beginning, and continuous rules. Is yours and the former ones, the ones where the AI just learns from the space, has famously led to a bunch of AIs that were sexist or racist or
exactly
right.
Yes,
so
exactly.
Is that what you guys are trying to fix here?
So we are trying to fix by not using what we would call machine learning, because machine learning is exactly that. The AI is learning by itself with the database that it's allowed to access. We don't want that, because again, like machine learning is highly inefficient for moderation, to our opinion. And again, you have like so many new trends, like today, like people can write words without, the full letters. They find new ways, adding commas between the letters, or like so many creative ways. So using machine learning for moderation is not efficient, and that's not what we're using. What we use is our linguists, and they feed the AI with rules. So saying this plus this in this context shouldn't be allowed. That's why it's like so easy to customize for different people we're working with, because obviously if you say to someone on, I don't know, like something under a picture of kids, and you say, I'm gonna murder them, it's very different to someone saying under a video game post, of a shooter saying, I'm gonna murder them, because it's like so different. Like the context is very different. Or I'm gonna murder you is not the same thing in a shooter in-game chat that I'm gonna murder you in a Just Dance, game.
But by the way, so to get some clarity, are we only talking about text-based communication or also voice?
Yes, at the moment we are focusing on texts. Audio is something that we think about, but at the moment I think it's too early. We already see changes when it comes to moderation reason. We are still not quite there, but on the market side, so maybe in the future, I hope.
It's a huge jump from text to voice.
It's a huge jump. Also, can you do this in real time like you do by writing? Like, so many questions. Many questions.
And it also sounds like you have to, because you mentioned that, having a picture in the text stream and then the context of the picture changing the way. That means you're also analyzing the pictures.
Yeah.
And that's crazy difficult.
So the way we are performing at the moment is that the rules are set per pages that we are like pages or platforms that we are protecting. So for example, we don't cross information between pictures and text yet. But what we do is that, we know that this page, that this Twitter account that we are protecting are aiming for like a young audience. So we know that those kind of like sentence shouldn't be found in this.
Right, I see.
This. So that's how we, but one day maybe I hope that we'll be able to cross as many information as possible.
Right. I mean, this is the scalability of this is, there's just so much data involved here in real time. The other part, and I want to get obviously to the actual thoughts about moderation and all that, and the principles you guys are using and all that. But one more bit of clarity. You said linguists, which is interesting, right? Because they're obviously studying the language, and you're also dealing with multiple languages at the same time. How is that? And mind you, I don't know how that's done by humans either. All right, because, you could be in a text chat where people will chat in like Arabic and Mandarin and Spanish and English in one stream. And I've never understood how a human being could know so many languages and be able to effectively moderate something like this.
Well, it's a lot of work. So at the moment, we have 6 premium languages that we cover with our 7 different languages. So we have English. We have both English from the UK and from the US, because culturally very different type of toxicity and English. We also have Portuguese, Spanish, German, French. So these are the 6 premium languages that we covered today. And these are like the highest performing at the moment. But for the other languages, it's another challenge because, first of all, we cannot hire linguists from all those languages to cover, not yet, at least. Like, we're not like that a big company that can hire a linguist from every language. But we are working on, being able to moderate also all these different languages by using a translation module that will then pass the content through the technology bodyguard. And then by doing this, it's like, of course, we will not moderate Arabic languages the same way with the same quality as we do with English at the moment, because we don't have the linguists. But our aim is to be able to protect as many people as possible. So it's already a first step, and it's already what is done on the market today in terms of moderation anyway. But for today, what we want to do is to protect as many people as we can. So it means that we will have to adjust. We will have to work really hard to make sure that those languages are protected at the best standards as possible. But that's how it's working at the moment. But again, it's like so much data to analyze and so much work to do.
I don't know how many languages there are in the world, but I'm assuming thousands. And no moderation team is going to know all of them. But, let's say you got a top 20, but even Arabic, right? You pointed to, you guys do American English and British English, which is not even going to Australia yet, right? And if we're talking about Arabic, you could have, one set of norms in Morocco and a very different one in Lebanon, right? That's a lot of expertise needed, whether you're doing it as humans or as AI.
Yes, 100%. That is very true for those type of languages, that have almost like sub languages, like a very specific way to talk this language in certain regions. It's getting really, really difficult.
Okay. Now let's jump to actually the creative decisions. I don't know, but the decisions that are actually made. So you guys are a moderation software, essentially a moderation team. But what some people call moderation is other people just call censorship. So is moderation censorship? Is this a limitation of free speech?
It is not, because moderation, it's not the way I see it or the way we see it at Bodyguard, because first you choose to moderate, like the platform that that call us for help, they choose to moderate. There is also the application that you can download. People choose to have moderation on their own page, so this is not censorship, it's self-protection, self-preservation. There is also something that we say quite often, and I will repeat it again and again. The freedom of some people stop where the suffering of others begin, which means, sometimes you have loud people that allow themselves to be very toxic to one another, and others that, because they are so afraid of receiving those insults, receiving those toxic content, they decide to shut themselves and not to participate to conversation and not to enjoy the game. Like I'm one of these person, like to be honest, as a woman in gaming, sometimes I almost never use the voice chat, because I know that I'm gonna get targeted, or I'm gonna get insults. So I actually censor myself because I'm fearing toxicity. Right. So what we want to do, and there is something that we really work really hard with Bodyguard, is that we want to give the voice to everyone. We want to make sure that everyone on platforms, on social medias, allow themselves to participate to conversation, that they enjoy the experience as much as anyone will do. And also, we do not moderate criticism. It's not something that we do. We very much put a lot of effort. And when we start working with clients, we are very clear with them, criticism will not be moderated. Toxic content, violent content will be moderated to protect your teams, to protect you, but criticism will not. So it's really important to see moderation as actually a tool of freedom, to allow everyone to express themselves, to participate to conversation, not to be afraid to be out there, because, the minorities today, they are victims of toxicity. I've seen a very recent study, again, the numbers are terrifying. We need to give everyone a voice, and that contributes also to diversity on social medias, on those platforms. So to me and to Bodyguard, we see it as a tool for freedom more than censorship.
Yeah, I'd like your first point, I think, is really interesting, that the things that get posted to my page, whether I post them or somebody else posts them, are ultimately my responsibility. And so in some ways, they are my speech. So even if Shlomo posts something to my page and I don't like it, I can delete it. And that's not censorship, because it's my page, and people are going to see that as my ownership.
Camille, so to piggyback on that, just if I got the technology right, did you say that is this more of a client based, or the client turns it on, so that rather than moderate the speech in the entire conversation, this is something I can decide to turn on or turn off for myself in terms of protecting myself rather than moderating the entire conversation? Does that make sense? That each person can decide whether to engage with it or not.
Yes, exactly. So that's exactly what it does, actually. So there is two sites. So there is the app that is now available that anyone can use, and it's just about moderating, and they don't see content. But for clients, they actually choose what they want to appear on their page. So I just want to make one thing clear, is that we always moderate a content that is against the law, like racism, homophobia, all those kind of content that are against the law. They will always be moderated. Not a client would say, oh, I want to the N-word to stay on the page. It's a big no. We have
those things are not against the law in the United States.
They are in Europe. So in Europe we decide. We are very engaged with what we do. We do believe that those behaviors shouldn't happen. So that's where also like the all ethic part of it comes to, to the game, is that we make strong choices at Bodyguard to always moderate those kind of content. They will always be moderated. For the other parts, like, very specific topic, then they can decide what they want to do with the content. If they want, to be permissive with their moderation, they can. If they want to be very strict with their moderation, they can.
Yeah, I think Shlomo is thinking that he could download it and use it to protect himself from stuff on Facebook or like on a public site or on Twitter or something like that. Is that what you're thinking?
No, when I meant client-based, I meant in the technical sense. So in the sense that the user is using client software. So let's say I'm playing a game and I have the option on my end to have the moderation on or off, as opposed to, let's say I'm playing League of Legends and, I have the ability to turn Bodyguard on for myself, as opposed to...
So that you're not hearing or seeing, I should say, you're not seeing...
Right. So it's moderating the speech that I would be seeing as opposed to everybody's speech. Do you see what I mean, Camille? And Andy, that's where I thought you were going with, where you were talking about my page.
Right. So I was thinking like I am League of Legends, and so I hire Bodyguard to moderate the things that are that are being posted onto League of Legends.
I see, but if that was the case, we would say, well, League of Legends is censoring the conversation, right?
Well, except that it's owned by League of Legends.
Right. Well, you could say they can, right? You could say they can do what they want, right? But you still might say they're, whereas if it was a client-based kind of software, you might say it's an option that someone who wants moderation can turn on or off, right? So then it becomes an individual person kind of situation.
So it's an individual case for the app that we are offering, but when we work with clients, they are the users. If I, as a user, I want to play League of Legends, I cannot, say I want Bodyguard or I don't want Bodyguard, because you are under the community guidelines that have been set by Riot in that case. And if Riot says we moderate all those type of content, then it's their choice. But in any case, the big part of the work that we're doing with them is actually to find the right balance with them, because obviously we don't want to fall into censorship, because it's really easy to fall into censorship with moderation. It's a lot of work with them before we integrate the solution to make sure that it's right balance, that it's not moderating what shouldn't be moderated. But at least for homophobia and racism, it should be gone, and I don't think it should be read by anyone. But these are like the minimum. I'd say there is like a minimum of things that we would always moderate anyway.
Okay, so now let's get to the big challenges then. And the big challenge is the challenge of moderation itself. And I'm wondering here if there is, so if you have human moderators, right? I'm assuming, and I don't know how this works. So this is me guessing, and Andy, Camille, you guys can correct me on this, because I'm coming at it from, I'm just a gamer, right? I mean, I just play games, right? I don't really know how this works. I'm assuming, let's say a company like Riot would traditionally have a moderation team, and they would essentially have meetings and decide for the individual moderators what it is that they should be looking for and how it is that they should deal with those things. And then you have a policy of also what happens. Right. So one is, are they going to actually interrupt? I don't know how human moderators could do this in real time.
Right. It's really hard, and in real time, it's very, very difficult.
It's impossible. So I've worked for a big publisher for 4 years when I was working anti-fraud, and what I've seen is that it's not moderated at all. What is happening is that it's not moderated. It's kept analyzed afterwards, and then we take sanctions. And then if the player is not happy with that, he can complain, and then a human is checking on what has been happening, and then the human takes a decision. So it's actually, I think, to my opinion, not the right way to do it, because for so many reasons. First of all, you don't moderate in real time. So someone shoots an insult, you have read it, it's too late. Like, the damages are done. You've read it, you feel bad, you want to quit the game. So it's really bad for your players' retention. Second, if the player who has been toxic is banned like 2 days afterwards, like, what's the point? Like, it's too late. He probably doesn't even remember the fuck off that he just sent like 2 days before. So there is that. And then they're allowed to complain, which I think it's fair. Like, they have the right, to disagree with the decision, but then you have a human moderator that checks, that reads all the chat logs and makes a decision according to his subjective view without participating to the game, and then makes a decision and say, okay, maybe we should lift the ban or remove the ban. So I do think it's not a good experience for the players, for the toxic players, for the moderators, for the publishers, for like so many reasons. I think we need to stop. I think that's why real-time moderation is so important, because if we can prevent all of this to happen, just by hiding the comment, like just by hiding the insult. First, you don't have people leaving the game because they have been insulted. You don't have people leaving the game because they have been banned. You don't have to ask moderators to read toxic content, to take on the company time, just to read and to make a decision based on their subjective.
And I think there's one thing left out that you mentioned earlier that I've never thought of before, which is the whole bot situation and phishing schemes. And this is the kind of thing that definitely human moderation after the fact is not going to be able to do anything about.
Right. It's not possible. It's not scalable for moderators. You are not going to catch everyone by doing this.
Right. This whole conversation is making me think about these Facebook groups that I'm in that all have human moderators. And one of the interesting things, there's one group, and I'm in a variety of different groups and a variety of different topics, right? And there's one group that for some reason the moderators are constantly fighting with the group, I feel like it's become a game in and of itself, right? This group is very large. It's a fan base for a popular thing, and it's just attracting people who are like, oh, these moderators are under threat. Like, the moderators feel like they're under siege.
And this is a voluntary position or is this
absolutely voluntary?
Right. This is not Facebook's
no. This is
official moderators.
No. This is just the people who put the page up are trying to moderate the page, and it feels like, and it's the only group in all the groups that I've been in, it feels like that. And I wonder if you see this, do people start to try to fight the moderation?
Or let me to piggyback on that, right? Now let's say you've got an AI that's working in real time, right? Do you see people trying to like, oh, look at that AI censored me. Let me try to go around that AI. At least that AI is not going to feel battered like Andy's moderator.
The moderators are just like.
But it becomes a game now, right? Of trying to beat the AI.
That's the thing. Like, I think it's quite funny to see them trying to beat the AI. Like, that's what makes it challenging, because they're actually also giving us new keys of understanding what toxicity means, or like, oh, what's going to be their next move. I think that's why keeps me on with this job. I think it's so interesting. But it's also the worst part of the job is that it's a cat and mouse situation. It's always gonna be like with fraud, especially, like they're always gonna have one move. They're always gonna be one move ahead of you just to counter the AI. But it's quite interesting, and that's where we need to act fast, and that's why also it's moderation is so difficult, because it's not one technology that will fit that will fix everything. It's not just one type of moderation that will fix everything. And that's why we always, update the technology, keep up with the people we're working on, making sure, we don't see new trends, because there are new trends. Like it's the thing that I mentioned earlier. You see people creating letters with symbols, for example, the N word, you have, the bar and the V, and that creates an N, and then they're able to write the full words, they are like really, really creative people. And that's where we always need to be on edge with everything, to keep up with everything. But they will, obviously they will try to counter the AI. And it's what makes it quite interesting, but also very challenging.
Speaking of that challenge, for more controversial stuff, I mean, people a lot of times really disagree on what is offensive, what is racist, what is sexist, what is homophobic, right? What is true, right? Just true or not true, right? There is no, let's say, trans. There's only, men and women, and these are fixed positions, male, female, right? That is a position that is taken by some people to be transphobic, or to reject a non-binary existence, or even intersex. Other people will say, no, that's just true about the world, right? And there's lots of things like this that some people might say is racist, some people might say sexist, other people say, no, that's just true. When you have human moderators, right? You said this is subjective, so they look at it, they subjectively analyze. Instead, you guys have linguistic experts, is the way you put it. Okay, so what does that mean, and how do they deal with the fact that people sometimes disagree, and what recourse is there to say, look, I was talking about something real and true. It's funny because in the context of a game, which is very different than in the context of Twitter. And I think that matters, right? It matters if you're talking in what's maybe the kind of freedom maybe you need to talk about in a place like Facebook or Twitter versus in the middle of a game might be very different. But still, how do your experts handle things like that?
There is a lot of fights and heated conversations. No, actually, it's diversity and inclusions. These are I'm gonna say two because I'm not gonna count. And the two favorite world words in the world. They are so important. We need to make sure it's a big challenge within bodyguards. It's true. And we don't always have the right answer. Is how we make sure that our technology fits the needs of today, and that we are protecting as many people as possible. We try. It comes first with recruiting diverse people, making sure that we don't have only white female or white male in the team, making sure that we have conversation, that we talk about things. It's really, really, really important, because when Charles, the creator of the technology, created the technology, he was just alone in his room, and trying to think about what would people dare to say behind the screen that they wouldn't dare saying, in front of other people. But, he has only his white male prism, he's just seeing that through his own experience. So it's where it's really, and I'm going to really stress on that, really important to have people surrounding you that have different experiences, that have, they're coming from different places, that they do understand other people's point of view, to make sure that the technology is always reflecting that. Very recently, one of our experts submitted a test to us. It was just a massive survey of 100 sentences in French. And he said, okay, so now you're going to do what a moderator would do. You're going to take a decision on those sentences. And we had to classify those by saying, oh, this is insulting, this is neutral, and this is supportive. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole career at Bodyguard, because, it was just trying to put myself out of my own experiences because I'm going to be more sensitive about, certain topics, but not so much to others because of my experiences, because of who I am, my identity. So it was really difficult to put, myself out of my own body and experience and to try to answer this the more objective as possible. It was impossible. And you cannot do it by just one person clicking on say, I'm going to remove, I'm going to say yes. It has to be a collective work. We are not at Bodyguard. We are very aware that we are not the police. We are not the justice. We are just here to try and empower people with our technology, empower them with our knowledge of moderation and what toxicity means, trying to put the technology in the right hands with the right guidelines. And it's really tough. Like, honestly, it's a work of every day. Questioning yourself, questioning what you're doing, making sure that you're always doing the what you think is the right thing.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let me ask a question. This comes from my white guy, my 50-year-old white guy hat, right? So I have typed something into a chat that I think is fine, but but it turns out somebody that I can't imagine is going to find it offensive. What happens to me?
What happens to you is it's another. It's really up to first the people who decided to put the moderation on, what they want to do with you. To me, banning is not the right answer. Silencing is not the right answer because, again, I think there is degree in what you would say in toxicity. This is something that we do care about, the severity, because, again, saying something really offensive and threatening someone to death is really different. But
at first, just my comment itself just never gets published, right?
It never gets published.
Okay.
And you don't know.
So that's the first thing, right? And I don't know. Okay.
And you don't know. In an ideal world, to me, I would like to see other steps behind it. Maybe, explanation or, just informative as to why your comment wouldn't appear. Like, okay, so this is not going to appear because according to, I don't know, maybe this law or, this context, you shouldn't be using it, to start like informing people, because a lot of like toxic comment comes from a desire to hurt other people, not like understanding what those words mean, out of ignorance. And I don't want people to be toxic at all. But I think being toxic by ignorance because you haven't, tried to put yourself in other people's shoes is to me probably one of the worst thing. Like, let's fight ignorance is, I think, one of the things that I would like to see. Having like extra steps after muting the comment.
This is one of the things I like about Reddit. Reddit moderators are usually very clear about what rule you've broken. Yeah. And they tell you, these are the rules and you broke rule number 2. Yes. But even then, I mean, a lot of times, you could potentially have back and forth. Yes. I didn't break rule number 2. How exactly does rule number 2 apply? And maybe this is the sort of thing where, oh my God, as a moderator, it would drive me crazy if I had to have these arguments with people.
Justify.
Right. But at least an AI could hopefully, because it takes almost no work, give you a bunch of details right there as to the thinking that led you there. At least that's a possibility if the company decides to provide them with that kind of feedback. And it seems only fair to provide you with the kind of feedback you're talking about.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I was talking to my manager last time was, the question of the dick pics. So I don't know how it is in the US, but in France now it's you can get sued for such a thing. You can, pay fines for sending dick pics. Yeah. If you're like,
people in the US love dick pics.
Well,
no, but yeah, that's really interesting. In the US, I mean, I've never heard of anything like that. It would be protected under free speech, I'm assuming, unless you're. Well, I guess I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'm going to walk that one back.
In France, it is. You can get fined for sending a dick pic to someone because it would be considered as sexual harassment. And it's condemned by law in France. So, when someone is sending a dick pic, maybe not sending it, like maybe moderating it and say, oh, did you know actually that sending a dick pic can cost you like 3,000 euros? Because it is condemned by law. And that I would like to see, because I'm pretty sure that all these others sending dick pics, it will quite change a lot of things. The same thing for, racism, like saying, that, sending racist comments can cost you that much of money, you can get condemned, you can go to prison. I think that would change, because I think even even more for the younger audiences that sometimes send those words because they see it, so they just mimic the
Right.
toxic behaviors, and they don't realize how severe this can be. And I think that would be like a cold shower to that. And again, trying to educate people. Let's educate people. Let's not be punitive and just ban people. Let's educate people. I think it's the best way to go forward with that.
It's interesting that on the one hand you're educating them on the rules and how exactly they're not meeting the rules. On the other hand, hopefully you're also educating them on how to become better people, right?
Decent human beings. That would be good.
I do understand why companies choose not to, though, because they don't want to get into that conversation. And people are rules lawyers, right? They will poke at the rules and poke at the rules and poke at the rules until.
That's why it's so difficult, because on our side, we have to educate the people on the internet, but we also have to educate the actors that have the power to make decisions and to make safe spaces, because they don't sometimes really realize what's happening on their community, or they're like, oh, a bit of competitivity is good for the game. I'm like, yes, okay, but maybe threatening someone of rape is not, competitivity. It's just like something more. So, and there is also, yes, but we want to create a seamless experience for the players. We want competitivity. We want people to fight around the games. And I'm like, yes, I do understand, but maybe protect your players as well, because it's just, so much more important. Like, do not forget that people still kill themselves because they are harassed online. So this is really something that we try to educate people about. Like, we do understand gaming can be very competitive, and like it's a business of its own. But let's be more human, maybe for 2023 as well. Try to protect the players, the people, the kids, the young players that are behind the screens is something that I would like to see a bit more.
All right, Camille, we're just about done. What do you want to leave our audiences with?
First of all, let's make 2023 the year of safety and inclusivity, of diversity and inclusion. I've read a study very recently that 87% of the 18-24 years old felt like cyber violence in their life. Let's make it to 0% in 2023. You are not alone. People like us are trying our best to make gaming a better place. So we got your back.
All right. Sounds good. Let's do it in 2023. All right, Camille. Thank you for coming to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Play nice, everyone.
You can subscribe and listen to all of our episodes wherever you listen to podcasts.